Hey guys, welcome to The Strong Young Man. Over the last 30 years, scientists have made significant inroads into discovering what women want from men and exactly what arouses them. Rather than asking women, who have never been able to articulate exactly what arouses them, as proven by Meredith Shivers and John Bailey in 2005, what scientists, anthropologists, and psychologists have empirically discovered is that a woman has a dualistic sexual strategy. The first part of the dualistic sexual strategy is that women are attracted to dominant alpha males, even and most especially if they don't admit it. Women offer more immediate and frequent mating opportunities to men that display alpha traits such as leadership, a strong sense of self, stoicism, conviction in beliefs, determination, ambition, resilience, desire to be in control, confidence, and a capability for physical combat. The second part of a woman's dualistic sexual strategy is that she will offer limited mating opportunities in exchange for the satisfaction of her and her offspring's long-term security. In order to keep a quality woman around, you will need to embody a fine balance between maintaining a healthy variety of the alpha dominating role and consistently satisfying a woman's long-term security requirement to a standard that meets her expectation. What this means for you will come down to the individual woman you are trying to retain in combination with her previous experiences. You need to provide her with whatever she deems valuable in a relationship to a level of her satisfaction. It can also expand to mean that you must adapt over time to meet any new requirement that she deems you responsible for meeting. To complicate things further, a woman's requirements can shift in accordance with what she deemed your future potential to be, compared to what you are actually living up to. Ignorance of your inability to meet these requirements to a level of her satisfaction is the basis for most divorces these days. Today's episode is going to expand on the main requirements that a woman will deem you responsible for meeting in order to retain her for life. It is more than likely that if a woman left you previously, you were transgressing at least one of these requirements. I encourage you to actively dissect your past relationships where a woman broke things off with you. Explore what she required of you, why and how you failed to meet her requirements, and then how it led to the subsequent relationship breakdown. This reflection will allow you to examine personal examples of today's main points. If you are currently in a relationship, you should proactively align your behaviour to prevent yourself from ever failing to meet her requirements. Here's what you need to do to retain a quality woman. Requirement number 1, satisfy her alpha requirement. With a woman's sexual strategy being dualistic, let's start with a woman's primary sexual strategy. A woman's primary sexual strategy is to mate with the most dominant alpha male that she can attract within the sexual marketplace. Known as the sexy son hypothesis, first proposed by Patrick J. Weatherhead and Rayleigh J. Robinson of Queen's University in 1979, a female's ideal mate choice amongst potential mates is one whose genes will produce males with the best chance of reproductive success. Meeting her expectation in this requirement can often compensate for a man's inability to meet all other requirements discussed in this episode. To guarantee you're able to satisfy her alpha requirement, you will not only have to be the most alpha man that she has been with, but you will also have to be the most alpha man that she has access to. If you are unable to supersede her other options, live up to her expectations, or her previous experiences, you will not be able to satisfy the solitary requirement of her primary sexual strategy. This may be enough to compromise her attitude towards you, and it may corrupt any potential that you two had of a happy long-term relationship. She will forever pine for that alpha male that she once had, or could have had, even after he dies. This is part of the reason why younger women with an absence of previous boyfriends and sexual partners are so refreshing to date. They are uncompromised by previous alpha males that you must outdo in order to meet her expectations. To meet this requirement, you don't necessarily have to be your typical alpha male, although it will help if your alpha traits are innate. Whatever the case, you need to display alpha traits mentioned previously, such as leadership, a strong sense of self, stoicism, conviction in one's beliefs, determination, ambition, resilience, desire to be in control, confidence, and a capability for physical combat. Possessing these traits will ensure that you maintain the sexual attraction with your woman, which will ensure a fulfilling relationship, sexually and emotionally. Because this requirement satisfies a woman's primary sexual strategy, it is something that every woman demands of you, and it is the most important requirement to satisfy. The remaining requirements relate to satisfying a woman's secondary sexual strategy. Understand that meeting the next 5 requirements does not evoke the same sexual arousal cues in a woman that alpha traits will. Just meeting these long-term security and provisioning requirements will only grant you limited sexual access. It will also not negate her ability to cheat on you with an alpha male that she might come across if the circumstances are right. Having said this, the following requirements are still key components to a woman's long-term relational satisfaction, and you must continue to meet her long-term security and provisioning requirements in order to fully negate her hypergamy over the long run. Requirement number 2, satisfy her financial requirement. If you no longer satisfy a woman's needs financially, she may seek to get her needs met elsewhere, if this is important to her. The female nature of hypergamy drives a woman to desire a man with a higher earning potential than themselves. A woman needs to receive some fiscal benefit to remain attached to you long-term. In order to maximise your chances of mate retention, you need to make sure that you are meeting her minimum financial requirements. Be aware that her requirements are of an hypergamic basis. A woman's requirement to meet this metric will be optimized based on the financial resources that she personally has access to. This means that she may be hard to satisfy if she comes from a wealthy family. It means that she may leave you if she finds a suitable candidate that out-earns you. It can also occur after a woman receives an increase in her own salary. In these instances, it might benefit you to exaggerate your earnings or wealth to reinforce that you still bring more to the table than she does. As a woman's mate value declines sharply with age, and your income should increase with age, none of these instances should be a problem. Just make sure that you continue to out-earn her, or at least give off the impression that you bring more to the table than she does. Check out episode 40 for more tips and tricks on how to do this effectively. Losing the ability to meet this requirement could occur for any number of reasons, including a loss of job, reduced income, loss of savings, or any increase in expenditures without a proportional increase in income, for example through having children. Understand that a woman can be ruthless in these instances, often initiating divorce and acquiring your wealth and future earning potential so that she and your children can live comfortably at your expense. Most of the time, when a woman intends to leave you, she will keep you around until she can source income from another stream, such as a new suitor, income from the government, or until she can forcibly acquire your resources. This is known as monkey branching, which I've covered in depth in episode 7. As a man, you must continuously strive to improve your financial situation to retain a woman who deems financial security critical to satisfying her hypergamy. For some women, in the short term, showing ambition and drive to succeed will satisfy her, but this is only ever temporary. It only works if you're in your 20s and you're with a younger woman who is also in her early 20s. In the long run, results will be the only metric that you'll be judged on. If you suffer a financial setback, then you should withhold the details from your woman. Withholding of your masculine problems is the best preventative measure that you can take to prevent your woman from an emotional overreaction. The woman cannot react to information that she doesn't know. Understand that women are not equipped to deal with masculine problems. They only see things through their feminine lens. Part of the reason that you should withhold as much financial information from your woman as possible is to minimize her overreacting to that information at a time of financial instability. The woman's hypergamous nature is so clued into your ability to provide, and a lot of women instinctively overreact the moment that they realize that you're a dwindling resource. Understand that as a man, you are only as useful as your utility to her in that moment. This may be a bitter pill to swallow, but it's better to swallow it whole, rather than walk around ignorant and have it wallop you when you realize the unpleasant truth about female nature. Requirement number 3, satisfy her social status requirement. Social status refers to a man's ability to provide his woman with the perception that she is with a high-value man. A woman's social status and personal value is judged on the caliber of man that she can obtain a formal commitment from. To satisfy this requirement, you need to be able to demonstrate that you are highly respected by other well-respected men. It also extends to being able to evoke genuine desire from other attractive women. Understand that women judge men by proxy. Women defer or outsource their judgment for mate selection to other men and women, and if the majority desire your company, she will desire you. Your high social status continuously reinforces to a woman that her choice of mate selection is justified. This is because high social status of a mate corresponded to female survival in the Paleolithic era. Allowing women access to higher quality people can also be a secondary benefit stemming from this requirement. Things that can compromise your ability to satisfy her social status requirement include social indiscretions such as scandals, continuous disrespect from people that you respect, and losses of your position in power. To some women, this won't be important, but to the ones that it is, you need to be able to consistently demonstrate that you're able to maintain high social status. If you don't have this ability, then fake it until you make it. Do whatever you can to give off the impression that you are able to maintain high social status until you can actualize this requirement. Requirement number 4, satisfy her sexual attraction requirement. Requirement number 4 covers off everything relating to the sexual attraction within the relationship. Closeness and arousal are opposing forces. As you become closer to a woman, her arousal for you wanes. On the other hand, creating distance will inflame arousal. One way to maintain sexual attraction is to not allow a woman too much insight into your life. Keeping a sense of mystery within the relationship is a great source of arousal, and you must not deprive her of this. Another thing to consider relating to attraction is that you must ensure the sexual forces remain polarized. As discussed in episode 36, the relationship must be balanced through equal but opposing sexual forces. Polarity creates attraction, and the more polarizing your sexual forces are, the larger the force of sexual attraction. Unfortunately, this polarity can diminish over time. One way this can happen is that a woman demands that her masculine man become more feminized. Do not allow a woman to neuter your masculinity. What women think they want in a man never matches the narrative of what they actually want in a man. Despite her hints and insinuations, a woman does not want you to change, and if you do, it will kill the attraction. Another way that this can happen is for you to succumb to the total sterilization of all masculine energy by the intelligentsia. Do not submit to this social force. A good woman will not tolerate her man succumbing to the pressures of social conventions, so make sure you are unfettered by the social force in order to maintain the same polarity of masculine to feminine energy that the relationship was founded on. Requirement number 5. Satisfy her parental investment requirement. This one is pretty straightforward. You must be able to demonstrate that you are able to invest in your children to a level that enables strong, healthy, and successful offspring. For most men, this is not a problem. In fact, I'd argue that a lot of men actually desire to achieve more in this domain, but it compromises their ability in other domains. Make sure you aren't neglecting to satisfy her other requirements in order to over-invest in satisfying this requirement. Requirement number 6. Any other unique, in-depth desire. The previous 5 requirements will cover off 90% of what a woman requires of you. A woman may have other unique, in-depth desires that you must satisfy in order to keep her around. These are unlimited and may be very unique to her circumstances and/or past traumas. The list is too long to discuss in this episode, and hence I offer no prescription. You will have to determine this on your own. You will have to use your own deductive reasoning to identify what is important to your woman and then how best to satisfy it. To give you hints, some other less common requirements are sexual domination or sexual satisfaction, ability to integrate into social circles or family, being her emotional tampon, solving her problems, having shared interests, or belonging to the same religion. Sometimes a woman's deepest desires will relate to what she did not receive as a child. For example, if she was treated too kindly and precious, she may appreciate a man who is a little rough around the edges. Women are rarely overt in asserting their requirements. They also deem your positive masculinity responsible for recognizing their insinuations. If you are paying attention and you can think things through, then it really shouldn't be too hard to deduce. Clues come out in time, as long as you are always paying attention. It is important to understand that a woman's requirements are subject to change at any time. For example, as a woman moves through her 20s, the weighting of her requirements will almost always shift to align with her innate desire to reproduce. If a man doesn't serve a woman with the same usefulness, she will terminate the relationship. Note that Robert Briffault has explored this as early as 1927. Briffault's law states that the female, not the male, determines the conditions of the animal family. Where the female can derive no benefit from association with a male, no such association takes place. Even though a woman has accrued past benefits from her relationship with a man, this is no guarantee of her continuing the relationship with him. If a woman promises a man to continue her relationship with him in the future, in exchange for a benefit received from him today, her promise becomes null and void as soon as the benefit is rendered. A man's promise of a future benefit has limited ability to secure a continuing relationship with a woman, and his promise carries weight with her only to the extent that the woman's wait for the benefit is short and to the extent that she trusts him to keep his promise. Nowhere is this tendency more evident in the animal kingdom than with the mantis. As part of the mating ritual, the female devours the male. She starts by eating his head before the male has fertilized her eggs, and a separate mini-brain in his tail enables the mating ritual to be completed. Once the sperm has been deposited into the female, she resumes the sexual cannibalism. The male mantis is nothing more than available resources for the perpetuation of the species. Talk about going out with a bang. Women are generally very forgiving of a man who is not able to meet their requirements. It's not as though they will leave you as soon as you face a setback that renders you unable to meet her requirements. They will generally give a man some time to change. Women realise that tremendous benefits flow to long-term relationships, while there is an investment cost every time a relationship is terminated. A generous grace period is allowed before her resentment towards you becomes too much to endure. This time frame will vary depending on a woman's relationship to masculinity and how much her current circumstances permit her to tolerate. Do not take her lack of overt resentment as acceptance of your incompetence. It's not a woman's job to tell you you're incompetent. You should realise this on your own, as all men should. This is part of the masculine burden of performance. A woman will not tolerate ignorance to her change in requirements either. Women assign responsibility for recognising a change in their requirements to men. If you don't recognise this, then after some time, she will leave you. If you refuse to see that you are not meeting her requirements, or you refuse to do anything about it, then she will also see this as irrecoverable. She may also leave you immediately if she sees that you are not able to change the situation in a reasonable time frame. If your ability to satisfy her requirements is sufficient, you'll be able to preserve a relationship based on mutual trust and shared affinity. Understand that a woman's love for you is conditional, based on your capacity to maintain the conditions that negate her hypergamy. If this balance is able to be maintained and is in perfect harmony, and the two of you are sexually compatible, you will experience a relationship that transcends any notion of being single. I highly advise against relationships unless you can find and maintain this rare phenomenon. Thanks for watching today's episode. In episode 66, I'll run through the things you should hold off on before marriage. Subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when it drops. Catch you then.